This is The More the Barriers, a podcast where we unpack the lived experiences, struggles, and triumphs of individuals shaping a more inclusive world. I am your host, Sosa, and today we are diving into a deeply meaningful conversation about equity, representation, and the modern dynamics of partnership. Historically, women's contributions have been underappreciated and vastly misrepresented. As we look forward to the future, it is vital to understand how these systemic hurdles affect everyday lives and relationships. Joining me today are two incredible advocates who are redefining what it means to stand together, both in professional spaces and at home. They are a married couple of nearly 7 years, navigating life at the fascinating intersection of being women of color and being women in an inclusive relationship. All right, so I wanted to start this conversation with just acknowledging on my behalf how I feel when it comes to with regards to women's rights and situations that have happened in the past and looking forward to the future. I always feel like women, are underappreciated or misrepresented. There's been contributions throughout time where women, are not given enough of the credit when it comes to their influence. I just wanted to talk to the two of you, and then you could just give us a brief introduction with regards to your association to each other and how you have found your union and how you continue to advocate for each other and advocate for women in general, and how you feel, moving forward, what your life together looks like and how you can empower women with continuing to strive and advocate for progress.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Carlos. I think it's important as us, women of color, also in a homosexual relationship, that people realize that there's many layers of, let's just say, biases, right? So I'll speak to the point of professional spaces. I know sometimes if Jenny and I are in a room where there's decisions being made and we have to show up as people that are mindful of managing money a certain way, right? There's already prejudices and generalizations of how we may not have access to the same resources or education. And I think the way we navigate that, especially I think as someone who identifies being a female in this environment, is balancing hearing and listening to people that perhaps don't have the same perspective, but also being able to really skillfully prove them wrong with the types of words and choice of words that we use, because we want to make sure that people are getting educated, but in a very intentional and considerate way. And so I think that's what's really important, and why women, thankfully, people like you are willing to empower by sharing voices like this, but why it's so important to have women in these spaces to balance things out.
And just to add on to that, I'm going to go on the more being at home, right? The home spaces, right? More traditional setting would be a male is the one doing, the breadwinner, right? For us as two females, we kind of equal each other out, where we're both, both cleaning, right? We're both cooking. Both of us make our own money. When we go out to eat, we're both, splitting those bills equally, right? And so with us, it's more of an equal partnership, and there's not really a hard line where one does everything and the other one does all of the housework. No, we split everything equally. And as far as those traditional marriages, we try not to go towards that way. We just do everything as equal partners. We've been married for almost 7 years now. And so with time, you get to know each other and communicate better. And obviously you have to learn things, but I think it's all about equal partnership.
In our conversation, an excellent point about society knowing what needs to change But the real question being how it actually happens. The emphasis is on how real lasting won't be sold to us from the top down. Instead, it's driving an underground or grassroots movement rooted in authentic and walkable communities, trusted offline relationships, and even shifting mindsets tied to our environment. When you look at these changes already root in local libraries, meetings, gatherings in the park, what does transition away from the digital world, it looks practical. But how everyday people can now start co-creating this new reality is what yet seems to happen, but will.
I think there's been many examples, especially this year alone, where there's been women in power, and because they may have had a poor choice, right? And I'm not saying it's a singular choice, but a poor choice. And then on the flip side, where you've had men in similar or greater roles of power make disastrous, repetitive, frequent mistakes and poor decisions, but those women are very quickly dismissed or removed. And I think those examples are putting us back many years of what we've been able to really, I think, achieve over the last few years, right? Like, women have been more represented on board, in board meetings. Women have been able to, I can attest to that, have run and fundraise for a venture-backed company. And it's just like the examples that we're allowing to still exist and empower, unfortunately, are trying to dismiss that. They're trying to remove a lot of the historical references of very amazing women who have achieved a lot for society, and brought new technologies, whatever it is. And on top of that, it's not even just introducing new things. It's also the aspect that women provide nurturing. They provide collectivism mindset. They provide, balance. I think we're seeing that how we've been living and the powers that be are in excess. It's toxic, and it's causing us to live in a very high stress, high anxiety, overworked environment. And so this imbalance is coming to its reckoning, and I think people are waking up, thankfully. And I think these conversations, exactly what you're doing, Carlos, is helping people realize that, like, male dominance is not the right way. Everything needs to be in moderation and balance. And so that would be my perspective.
And I'm going to talk more about it in the future sense, only because I used to work in an all-girls school, K through 12. And so my viewpoint is more future-based. So the school I worked at was a very private school, Manhattan. So these children come from a more wealthy background. And so these girls, these women, soon to be women, show a type of power and resilience that I think we're going to have even more politicians involved that are female that are going to disturb that system. That, unfortunately, we're going to dismantle that system and create a new one that's going to be more of a balance, like what Cassandra is saying.
In our conversation, we move towards discussing what's next and how does change actually happen, especially when you are at firsthand witnessing the shifts that are happening both in policy, government, and in society when it comes to your union. We go on to talk about a powerful point, the double standard in leadership, how women in power are often quickly dismissed or removed after a single poor choice, while men in similar positions frequently make repetitive, disastrous mistakes but remain in power. We also mention how this systemic dynamic threatens to roll back years of progress in female representation, board leadership, and venture funding, while ignoring the vital collectivism mindset and nurturing balance that women bring to combat our toxic, overworked environments. Given our future-focused perspective from working at an all male dominated society, we ask, how do you see this rising generation of young women dismantling uneven systemic leadership that is modeled and rooted in true moderation and balance?